This is Building a Blog with Rails 5 and Bootstrap 4, Part 15. In this episode, we're finally going to deploy this thing to the web and get it set up on an actual domain name. I'm not going to cover all of the absolute basics here, so you may have to do a little bit of research. I am going to tell you what you need to know, but we won't go into every single detail because it would take forever. So first of all, let me open up a new incognito window, and let's talk about a couple things you're going to need. If you don't have Git installed, you need to install Git. I expect the majority of the people watching this at this point have installed Git. Many of you have cloned the project, and so I'm not worried about going through step by step how to install Git, but if you do need to, go to git-scm.com, find the instructions for your operating system and follow along. After you install Git, you probably want to sign up for GitHub if you have not, but that's kind of optional. After you have GitHub, the last thing you need for this episode is Heroku. Heroku, you can sign up here and just follow the instructions. At some point, you need to download some tools to your command line application. I don't remember exactly what they call it now. They may be calling it the CLI tools or the tool belt or something like that. But at some point you should download that, and you'll know you have everything you need if you can go into your terminal and type git --version, and it gives you a version, and you can type Heroku --version. So once you have these things installed, I'll do a quick walkthrough on this if you've never seen this before, but let me open up a new tab in my terminal. So I'm going to make a new directory called git demo, just because I don't want to mess with the frog blog. So if we change into git demo, you could do something like git init, and this turns this into a repository. And then if I do like, let me just open this folder up. Now I'm inside of my text editor. I'm just going to make a new file, demo.rb. I'm not actually doing anything with this. I just want to throw a little Ruby file in there, and then we can see that it's in our file, and then I can say git status, and it'll tell me that I have an uncommitted file, and then I can do git add dot git commit -m, which is just for message, and then I'm gonna have well, hold on. If I do git status now, you can see that we have added a new file, git commit adds demo.rb. And now if I had set up somewhere to push to, I could. So if you don't understand what all that means, I'm going to suggest you probably go find a Git tutorial and check it out. That's as far as I'm going to take it. Anyway, but at that point, if you do that with Frogblog, if you add, don't remove it like I just did, but if you add it into Git with git init, and then you add all of the files and then git commit, you'll be ready to push to Heroku with us in a minute. So I apologize if you missed if there's some just intro stuff that I'm not covering here, but there's plenty of info around the web about it, and it's pretty straightforward. So let's jump back to our browser. So once you've signed up for all this stuff, created your accounts, you'll be able to follow along. So I've already got my account set up, and I created a new app called Frogblog. And from here, I'm just going to show you how I would go about deploying this, and then really what we're wanting to do is actually debug any issues with deployment. because I know that a few people had some problems. Um, so they're giving you the instructions here once you set up a project. So it's kind of what I just did: cd my project, git init, so on and so forth. And they tell you pretty much exactly what I just showed you. So there's those instructions again. I've been doing this for a while, and I kind of know what I want to set up here. So I'm going to do git remote add Heroku, and then paste this link. Now you can do this, it'll work just fine. I don't like to call the remote Heroku, and for one reason, I oftentimes will have a production and a staging server. So I'm just going to call this production, because that's what it is. It's going to be a production server for this Frogblog app. And all that means is you're just naming something different. All the instructions will tell you, if we go back over here to deploy, they'll tell you, see right here, you get this git push Heroku master. The only difference on what they're doing, what I'm doing, is it's going to be git push production master. And that's useful if you have multiple Heroku servers running that are different things, like a staging server and a production server. So, and I typically do, so that's what I'm going to do. And that's about all we have to do. And we can do git remote, and it's going to tell us we have origin and production. Origin in this case is GitHub, and we have our production. So if you were to do it with Heroku or some of the built-in commands, you can follow the instructions I'm giving, or you can follow these instructions here. They both should work, but you may end up with Heroku instead of production. Let's see here. So let's give it a shot. So we could do git push production master, and we need to migrate, since this is a new Rails app. So we'll do and Heroku run Rails DB migrate, and let's see what happens. This will take a minute, and hopefully it doesn't blow up. So far, so good. Okay, looks like we're about to migrate. Cool, I think it's working. Alright, so let's see what we got. So if you look right up here, it told us where it deployed to. Right here. So https frogblog.herokuapp.com. So let's open that up in a new tab and just see what it looks like. So that's our app. It is live. Okay, so excuse me. So what we need to do now is run Heroku run Rails C, and you'll notice that we can run basically everything we run in our console or our terminal in the Heroku console if we just put Heroku run in front with regard to our Rails commands. So I can put like Heroku run Rails DB migrate or Heroku run Rails C, and this is going to let me access the console on production, and I can check for like how many authors there are, which there are none because we just created this. So I will need to create one, and you've seen me do this before, but basically you put the email and then you type some stuff, and then you put the password and password confirmation. I'm going to do this off camera so that I can actually create a real account. Okay, so I created my account. Let's go try to log in. So if we go to /authors/sign-in, I should be able to do Steven at techmaker.tv and then my password. Log in, signed in successfully, and I should be able to go to my posts, new post, and okay, this is what somebody was talking about. The Tiny MCE was not rendering correctly. Alright, let's see if we have any JavaScript errors. Well, we do, but it's not related to that. Alright. So this is obviously a challenging problem because now we're on a production server that's giving us a different result than our local server. And when you're developing, you're going to run into these things all the time. And I'm going to do my best to just kind of show you my debugging process. And honestly, I don't have any idea right now, so we'll see where we end up. The first thing I would do is Google, obviously just Tiny MCE Gem Production, and click around and see if anything screams at me as obvious. Now, there was one thing from 2012, but that was 5 years ago, so who knows. The thing I'm curious about is this is not throwing any errors related to Tiny MCE, but nothing is happening. So in my console, I'm going to type Tiny MCE, and it's obviously being loaded. And if I hit enter, I'm like, Tiny MCE works. But it's not doing anything to our page. So let's jump back to our actual code for a second. I need to open it, I suppose. Okay, I have to close all this stuff. Let's take a look at our JavaScript where we did the Tiny MCE stuff. I need to remind myself where we did all of that. So, Tiny MCE init text area post body. Okay, let's go check what we've got in here. So if I inspect this, text area post body. So let's copy that code. Okay, one thing I'm noticing right now, excuse me, is that in the console that was not lowercase like that. Let's see what happens if we put it lowercase. Okay, it's the same thing. Okay. And if I do Tiny MCE init, it gives us exactly what we want. So the question is, why is that code not being called? So we have identified the problem in under 5 minutes, and the problem is not with some kind of Tiny MCE thing, it's just that our code is not being called. Well, I suppose I should say that it seems highly likely that that's the problem. Now, how can we prove it? Let's jump right here and let's put console.log for Tiny MCE remove before Tiny MCE init, and then maybe we can say after, and this will kind of help us diagnose if our code is executing all the way through or at all. So let's push this. If I can type today. So push this. So that went to GitHub, and then we'll push it to production. And I'm not going to make you watch this all load again. Okay, so our code finished deploying. Let me, to do this side by side, so I've already got my server running over there. Let's open up in a new tab localhost. And let's get these things side by side. And you can see that this is actually already executing there. So I meant to go to the post page and then new post, and you can see that that's being called every time. Now here, let's refresh, and nothing happened. So you can tell immediately that we're right. It's not executing our application JS file. Or I should say, specifically, it's not calling this TurboLink's load function. So one thing I want to just be sure of is, cannot read type default. So if you notice something, there's something kind of interesting here. So you have this Bootstrap tooltips require tether, and then we have an uncaught error, cannot read property default of undefined. Here we're only getting, let me make sure I'm on the same page. We're only getting the first error, which kind of makes me think that it's halting when it hits that first error, which would explain why we're not seeing our stuff logged out. So let's look up Bootstrap tether gem. Let's see here. So I should probably have done this a long time ago, but I wasn't using the tooltips, so I wasn't worried about it. So I'm going to take this, and if you look just below, I have to require tether before Bootstrap. So copy this a little bit and put it in our gem file. And we'll put that just under Bootstrap here. And then I need to bundle. I'm going to go stop my server and bundle. Okay, installing Rails assets tether. Now if I look in my application.js, just after jQuery, I'm going to require tether. Okay, so now if I restart my server, sorry for bouncing around so much. If I restart my server and then I go look at that page, do I still have any errors? No. Alright, so let me push this and let's see what this does. So git add dot git commit adds tether. And again, I'm not going to make you watch all of this. Alright, so that deployed, and moment of truth, let's refresh. And it works. So that was the problem. So completely unrelated to TinyMCE problem was breaking TinyMCE. So that's really, really interesting. So the moral of that story is read the errors and pay attention to differences and things. Take it step by step. So, I mean, if you think about what we did, we started with like the most basic thing, like is TinyMCE here? And it is, and then we copied and pasted the code and ran it in the console, and it did the same thing it was supposed to do, which let us know it's not being executed. And then you just take it bit by bit by bit. Oftentimes it is useful to do some Googling, but I know when you're getting started it can be a huge headache to chase Google errors around. So just remember, always try to do the simplest possible thing you can to test your sanity, and then just pay attention to patterns and things that look strange, and do side-by-sides and that sort of stuff. So anyway, so that is resolved, and I'm going to take out these console logs, and I'm going to redeploy this, and the last thing I'm going to do is set up a domain name. Alright, so I'm just going to deploy this again. Removes console log messages. Okay, cool. So I'm going to stop this, and then afterwards we will set up a domain name. Okay, so that's done. Let's jump back to our browser. I don't need that anymore. I probably don't need localhost. So to set up a domain name, it's 2 steps. So first off, you have to have a domain name, so take care of that on your own. I typically get them on GoDaddy. Just make sure you use something that's modern as far as buying domains goes. So in the settings page, we're going to add a domain, and you just want to type in whatever your domain name is. So frogblog.co is the site that I got. And I think I want to also add www.frogblog.co. Okay, so you do not need, I may not need the first one, actually. Let me think about this. No, I don't. I don't need the first one. So I know that based on how I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to show you how to set it up on GoDaddy, and you'll have to find an analogous way to do it on your platform that you're using if you're not using GoDaddy, and that can be annoying, and anyway, that's just something you have to deal with. So I'm going to jump over to GoDaddy and show you how I would set this up over there. So again, I'm not even going to begin to try to show you how to do this on every platform because I have no idea. On GoDaddy, you need to find your way to domain settings once you have purchased the domain. It looks like they have actually changed this since the last time I was here, which wasn't long ago. So if I click use my domain, I'm going to get to some stuff I've never seen before. Okay, this is crazy. Let's see. Build a new website, maybe. Hosting. What in the world? I don't know what this is about. Domain settings. Manage DNS. There we go. Now we're talking. So what I want to do is go back to Heroku. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to edit this www.c name and have it point to that thing from Heroku. And then I want to add forwarding. I just want to forward to www.frogblog.co. Now what that means is if somebody comes to the domain just frogblog.co, it's going to forward it to www. And so you can type in either one and the website will work. Alright, so if we jump over to frogblog.co, we are live. Now, I'm not signed in because of some issues with domains, so I should be able to sign in just fine. Authors, sign in, and Steven at techmaker.tv, and then my password. I'm signed in. And let's go to my posts, and let's just check really quick that we're still rocking and rolling, and we are. Cool, so that's it. We have our site set up. I think that's it for this series, actually. So we built out an entire blogging application and deployed it to Heroku and set it up on a domain name, and now this is a real site. So I think what I'm going to do is in the next I don't know, maybe a month or two, I'll probably add a few more features to this, but I'll do them one by one and make those kind of standalone extra episodes. But if I add anything new to this, which I might, then I'll definitely make an episode and put it out here for everybody. So keep an eye out for that. Subscribe, and also subscribe on TechMaker TV if you want to keep up to date with everything. That's techmaker.tv, my website. Anyway, it's been fun, and I'll figure out what we're doing next and have some more episodes coming out soon.